Hello everybody and welcome to this week's live mapping session here on Facebook. Welcome to everybody. I'm Rolf Schemmern of Profantasy Software and I'll be showing you some map making tonight with our software Fractal Terrains 3 and Campaign Cartographer 3 Plus. Tonight we're gonna look at Fractal Terrains 3 specifically. That's our second standalone software next to Campaign Cartographer, and that allows you to create whole worlds in just a few mouse clicks and make it quick and easy to create wonderful fantasy worlds. Okay, got a cat here on the desk, which I've got to remove for a second here. Okay. Let's hope that the video seems to be turned off at the moment. Let me just have a look whether this is still working. Okay, good to hear. Video is still working. Wasn't sure here for a moment and didn't want to talk to just nobody out there. All right, we are going to look at Fractal Terrains 3. Let's switch to that program to start. This is our Fractal Terrains interface with the world showing and some of the toolbars available. This may look a little bit different from your setup because Fractal Terrains is adjustable where you want to put your toolbars, can move stuff around and show and hide individual sections. This is just the setup I have here for the video, and I'm going to go quickly through the different panels to tell you what is what. In the middle, of course, is our big world area with the current world showing. Then we've got a color key showing the height display for the different colors. The globe that shows the globe view of the world, and you can use that to move the view around. And the properties window that shows you stuff like the latitude and longitude, where your mouse cursor is, temperature, altitude and rainfall values, and a few other things. To the left is the tool editing bar with tools like raise and lower altitude and all the other functions to edit your world, and the general settings toolbar is there up on top with the menu still above that. We're gonna start by creating a fresh new world. That's the first thing I want to do, and for that I'm gonna click the new button on the world. I'm not going to save the one I have here, and I get a window with the type of world I want to create. For this video I'm just going to do a synthetic world. That's the basic random world function that Fractal Terrains does. You can do other stuff like import hide data into Fractal Terrains. For that you would use a binary file. Can completely flat world to model your world by hand on, and the planar world, which is basically a world on a disk and not on a globe like Fractal Terrains normally does. So I'm just going to click next, and then you can set some general settings for the world. I'm going to stick with my default settings and show you a bit of adjustments of these same settings later on. Just going to leave this as is, and then I'm going to finish that to create a new world, and it looks exactly the same as the one I had before. Oh no, it doesn't. It just took a moment to redraw. Here's our new world map. And for that, this has been created on a random number basically, and you can cycle through different numbers, giving you a complete new world with just a mouse click here on the next world. And what I usually do is just go through a few worlds until I find something that I really like and I want to work with. So I'm just going to click next, and you can see the complete map changes. Ooh. got a whole water world there. Big one. We've got fairly big and large continents here. And this is not too bad. Still a bit too many continents perhaps. And I'm going to show you some of the setting adjustments you can do if you've got a general thing that you like and want to just do a few little tweaks to that. For that, we're going to open the world settings up here on the toolbar and go to the primary settings. And this may look familiar. This is the same settings we had when we created the world to begin with. Here we can change stuff like the highest peak on the world and the lowest depth in the ocean and the circumference of the world. I'm not going to bother about that. The world seed is the number the whole map is based on. But what I want to change is percent sea versus percent land. The sea at the moment is just showing 40% sea. And I want something more in the general range that Earth has. Earth, I think, has 67%, something like that. Let's go with 60% sea. And if I click apply, don't bother. Sorry about the German labels on the buttons. Fractal Terrains uses the the Microsoft Windows language, so it's going to be German here on some buttons. And you can see that quite a bit of the land has vanished. That basically what the changing the percent C does is adjusting the water level on the world. For higher sea levels, you get a higher water level, and just some land will vanish. Another setting is the land size. If I change that all the way to smaller, you will see that suddenly we've got lots of little different little islands and land chains and continents, and large gives you larger blobs. If I turn it all the way left, you'll see that we just got one big blob of land mass, and we want something in between. 2.3 perhaps. That's a bit still too large, so we're close to what we had before again, and this looks fairly nice. The roughness slider gives you control over how many mountains versus how many flatter areas you have. If you turn the roughness up high, it will go all crackly and small. Actually, something odd going on here, all showing us water. See if I turn this to lower, everything will look a lot smoother on the map. Smoother mountain ranges, not necessarily lower, but everything just is smoothed more into each other. Let's go back to in the vicinity for our original settings. The one is a pretty good value to have some nice large mountain ranges, but still a natural look on the map. Okay, we've got some additional things. We've got a secondary world setting, which is where you can set stuff like whether you want to use metric units or imperial units on the map. We can actually change to meters here on this map for once. And a few other settings which I'm not gonna bother about here. You've got an editing resolution. This is fairly important if you want to do some specific edits on the map. If it's set to small, you'll only have not very much control over stuff like your editing tools. So I'm going to set it to large, or can do it even larger, say 2048 value. Here you see how much memory the operations use, and still 48 megabytes is still not too bad in today's CPUs. So I'm just going to double that again. And here we go. We've got a few more things here this is saved settings for the world. You can save your, I very much like the setting I have here. I can say save, and this is my own world. So I can load up the settings for another world again if I want to use them. The fractal function is another very important thing and a very strong change, because that determines the complete overall look of the map, and it will give some very different results depending on which fractal function you choose. You've got basically two different types. This is Brownian functions and enriched multifractal functions. And I'm going to just tell you the difference, or show you the difference between those two. The Brownian functions will give you much larger land areas, continents, that are more like large blobs. And the rich multifractal version will give you more chains of land masses connected via small sections. And we're just going to go back to our original one. You'll see changing this completely changes the look of the map. It will be another world entirely. We're not going to look at detail at the other settings here. This is for more detailed world building if you want to have more influence over your climate and stuff. So we'll just apply the setting and take a look at our map. So one of the neat things about fractal terrains is that the altitude is actually mapped on a globe, and we have just one view here, the equirectangular map view of the whole world. But with the projection settings, change projection, I can view this world in quite a lot of different views. So for example, if you want to take a look at your classic Mercator style map projection, you can do that, and you will see that, like on some of the old maps that used to be in classrooms, the North and South Pole get enlarged a lot. Or you can do things like do an orthographic view, which is very nice and gives you a view like basically like from space. Not exactly, but very close to, as if you were in a space station above the world. And I see that my reload, when the program somehow restarted, it got rid of my editing windows, or my property windows, which gives me the opportunity to show them how to show and hide them. See, I wanted to view the globe, which is actually wandered off to the side as a separate dialog. I can just move that here to the left and attach that to the screen, to my view, to have it docked there. Another one was the properties view. Let me have a look where it is gone to here on my screen. And here we are. Got to move that to the left here as well. And the other one I wanted was the tool options. There's my tool options on here, and I moved that to the top of the screen. There we go. What I wanted to show you is the globe, because the globe allows me now to grab the view and move it around. And define or control from which direction I want to view my world. See, perhaps I want to see this specific continent here in the middle of the map, and then I can move that around until I've got it. Sometimes a bit tricky. There's my continent better visible. Okay, what I wanted to do, or basically what I should do first, is show you how to export a whole world into Campaign Cartographer and have a Campaign Cartographer map. But before I do that, I'm going to take a quick look at the questions and see whether the thing has come up yet. Quentin mentions that this pre-scale editing button is very helpful on the menu showing the resolution of the map, and that is actually true, and I should have activated that because that gives better control over the editing functions. For that, I'm going to open the world settings again and click editing and say allow pre-scale offset editing. There we go. And Sue asked whether there are better ways to move the map around. Yeah, there are several other ways available. For example, the views, the zoom views that allow you to zoom the whole map. And you can also set the view of you're looking at here on the latitude and longitude location. Say you want to take a look at the North Pole. That you would set latitude of 180. Is that correct, or is it actually 90? Now I've got a thing. No, it's 90, and 0 for the longitude, and that way you'll be looking at the map from the top, at the globe from the top. And let's take that back to the center here, and perhaps for an overview take it back to the equirectangular selection projection to start off. Okay, so we want to show this as a map in Campaign Cartographer. For this actually I think I want to view this a little bit differently, just to show you that the view you choose is actually what gets exported to Campaign Cartographer. Let's take the orthographic view here out a bit and perhaps move this around just a little bit. See if I want to center my map on this continent here. Then I'm gonna show some grid lines. I wanted to see actually the longitude and latitude lines on the map, and I'm gonna add this here with a new grid, an enabled grid with 30 degrees spacing, and there we go. There's my typical longitude and latitude grid on the map. Let's take a little bit of an oblique view onto our world. Perhaps move this around a little bit more. That looks nice. And now we want to export this into Campaign Cartographer. For that we go to File and choose Save Campaign Cartographer File. And then we've got a whole bunch of different export settings to what details we have in fractal terrains should show up in our Campaign Cartographer map. And just for this first one, I'm just going to do the simple full export, so all the possible information from fractal terrains get exported into Campaign Cartographer. That's all I need for the moment. I'm just going to do export world and going to save this as a world map. Takes just a moment to export. That was everything, and now I'm going to switch into Campaign Cartographer. Here's my Campaign Cartographer. There we are. And I'm going to load that world map. So that doesn't look like a word at all, does it? No, that's because the export is not zoomed to the extents of the map. The first thing you should do with an export from fractal terrains is always zoom extents. So you're going to show the whole map. Still looking a bit weird, but that's because everything is showing at the moment. All the altitudes and climate and rainfall and everything. But we have some buttons here for control of that. The A is for altitude, the T is for temperature, C is for climate, and the R for rainfall. So I'm just going to choose the altitude view, zoom out again, And this is my world map with the coastline and contour lines showing for my export. See, it's exactly the same view, slightly oblique view onto the globe. And you can switch between these buttons here to see the climate. I'm going to show you in a moment how that looks in fractal terrains, the rainfall map, the temperature map, and back to the altitude map. So let's go back to fractal terrains and show you where the information for those things is hidden in fractal terrains. Because what we are showing here is just the altitude map, but you can also show the temperature of the world, show the rainfall of the world, and show the climate of the world. Actually, the toolbar is cut off here, but no, actually the climate is up here. That's why I didn't see it first. So the climate, if I hover the mouse over the colored areas, you can see in the view properties window on the right, the climate. The green here is temperate forests, the light green is tropical deciduous forests, the yellow is tropical shrublands, this is alpine forest, and so on. Let's go back to the equirectangular projection to show you a bit more of the map. And again, altitude map. Here on the temperature view, you can see the range bands of temperature on the worlds from cold at the poles towards hot at the equator. Rainfall. And the altitude again. And all this information with the full export gets exported to Campaign Cartographer 3+, and you can show and hide it in there. But often you just want a section of the world and take a continent, a land area, and map that into one of the styles available in Campaign Cartographer, the Mike Schley Overland style, Sue's recent Spectrum Overland style, or whatever. And the big map like we have here is not very well suited to mapping in this in Campaign Cartographer. So let's see how we can get just a section of the map into Campaign Cartographer. But let's take a look at any possible questions again first. Okay, Jay asks whether you can change the view, basically where the view is separated, whether it wraps around on the world map. Yes, you can do that with the change projection. Basically, that's defined by where you show your longitude. If I put at 0, this is going to be in the middle. And if I'm going to put in 180, I'm going to basically turn the whole globe 180 degrees. And you see I have this empty section here in the middle, which was at the borders previously. And with this setting, you can exactly define where your east-west separation of the map basically is going to be. Okay, so I'm looking at my map, and for individual continents, I don't really find one that I want to export to Campaign Cartographer. So I'm going to do a couple more, take a look at a few more worlds, see whether I can find something that I like for. And oh, this is looking pretty good already. Oh, let's try another one. This is too large, just large blobs. This isn't too bad. I'm still not quite happy. Okay. This is looking quite nice here. I'm going to zoom in to the section I want to actually show in Campaign Cartographer, and I want this continent here. But perhaps not exactly in this view. If I want it in basic, as I would be looking at that continent from space, I'm going to choose the orthographic projection again. But I'm going to need to see whether this... Actually, I should do this in a better way. I'm going to go back to equirectangular and take a look where my continent is actually located. See, I'm going to check the longitude and latitude of the center of my continent. So latitude is -10 and the longitude is -25. This is this point where my cursor is at the moment. So I'm going to change my... Oh, that was the wrong button. This to the center of the map. So I'm going to do -10 for the latitude and -25 for the longitude. And the orthographic view. And this way I do have that continent exactly in the middle of my view. Zoom out a bit so I can get everything. And for an even better projection, because in this you already have pretty much a lot of the curve showing here, you can choose yet another projection. I quite, is it the azimuthal equidistant? You see, it's a smaller section now in here. All this stuff around and the edges is a lot distorted, but if I zoom in, my view is pretty good. Here we go. So this is the piece I want to be in Campaign Cartographer. And the idea is I don't need all the information that is fractal terrains, like the altitude, like the climate and the rainfall and things. I just need the general shape, the coast outline, and to give me something to work with. So I'm gonna do the same again, save Campaign Cartographer file, but I'm gonna choose a different export setting. I just need the altitude, which will give me the coastline and location for mountains and things. And I'm not even going to go for the high detail. As you will see, moderate detail is plenty enough to give me a nice coastline for Campaign Cartographer. Export world. And I'm just going to call this coastline. Save the file. Okay, now I'm going to switch back to Campaign Cartographer and I'm going to load the coastline export. Zoom out again. Oh, something has gone wrong here. Somehow the map is not showing up. Oh well, so let's do that again. Perhaps on the safe side, choose the orthographic projection again. Zoom out a bit. Here we go. And let's give that another try. File. I could do coastline only, but I do want some of the interior detail. So let's try that again. Okay, new coastline, and this is looking better. There's my continent outline. Yay! Worked on the second try already. Don't know what went wrong there. Would have to investigate more closely. Something I did wrong or didn't save, but no matter for now. So, okay, so we've got the coastline. We see where mountains will be, some contours on the sea, but not much in the way of other information for Campaign Cartographer here. To work with that, I'm going to start, first thing I'm going to measure the map. I'm going to see how large is the area we are showing and how large should my new campaign cartographer map be. So I'm going to go info, distance. I don't need absolute exact measurements. I'm just, a general idea is fine. So I'm just going to click in the corner here, up here. So the distance is about 23,000 kilometers. And in the other direction, it's a pretty large continent here. So 17,000. So 23,000 by 17,000 kilometers. With that, I'm going to start a new map at that size in the style I want to use. That's the easiest way to make sure that the new style has all the tools, all the bitmap fills that I want for my map. So I'm going to start a new instance of Campaign Cartographer. Here we are. Click New Map. Overland Maps as the map type. And I'm going to choose the map style I want to use. I'm going to go, let's say I'm going to try do the Mike Schley Overland style. Next. And now I'm going to put in the dimension. I just checked 20. Oh, actually, I wanted to use the kilometer, the metric version, because I was working in kilometers. So 23,000 by 17,000 kilometers. Finish the map and call it my new world. It is empty and pristine. Now I want my coastline in that new map. Well, that's Fractal Terrains actually. I wanted to go to my Campaign Cartographer export. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy the stuff over that I want. So I'm gonna go edit copy or Control C right away. Select just the green outline. Here's the coastline. You can see it's all taken, all selected. D for do it, and select the lower left corner here with the endpoint modifier 5 as the reference point. Switch to my new map. Do edit paste, and again choose F5, and we've got it in the exact space here. See, we did the map a little bit larger, 17,000 versus the 16,600 I measured. That's why we've got the gap up here. I'm going to take care of that later. But we've got the coast outline in our map. Now the thing is, with the normal export from Fractal Terrains, the whole entity will be multipoly, not a normal polygon. Because that's the way Fractal Terrains makes sure that you have holes in that if there's depressions in the altitude. And let's see a list. If we do that on the entity, you'll see this is 2D multipoly. And multipolys are nice and everything, but you can't edit them and add pieces or change the coastline. And that's why we're going to convert the whole thing into a normal polygon. For that, we need to explode the multipoly. Click that. Select the coastline, D for do it, and now if we check that, you already see it's not selected everything at once, just this piece here, and this is now a polygon. Now to make this a bit more easily visible, I'm going to change the properties of the whole thing I'm going to select by color, because this time I want to select everything, like our existing entities, do it, and we're going to change the color to bright green, easily visible, and the fill style of hollow. Refresh, and there's our coastline here. You can see, or perhaps actually on this background it was probably better to do a different color. So I'm going to do change color again. This time I'm going to select by prior, which just gives me everything I selected before. Do it and make that black outline C. Because what I want to show you is the little tiny specks and pieces that that Fractal Terrains exports. Because Fractal Terrains is very precise in its measurements and everything. It will take every little island it has in its data and it exported it to Fractal Terrains. And we want to get rid of some of these things because we just, for the campaign cartographer map, we don't need all these little nice little specks of coastline. For that, I'm gonna erase everything of my new coastline here. No, actually I need to zoom in a little bit more to get these bits and pieces as well. And then I'm going to do combine. I don't want to erase some of the bigger things. So this one, these I want to keep, or the whole huge big outline here, of course. This one, and perhaps some of the little bit larger islands, I want to keep those here. This one. This I might perhaps redo as a lake later if I'm very precise. And I'm going to keep this little island. And all the rest gets deleted. See, that's a nice coastline for our continent map in Campaign Cartographer. So how do we get this to look like the landmass, coast, continents and coastlines in the Mike Schley style? For that we have a very convenient tool called Change Like Draw Tool. And this is accessible via the Change Properties button. Just right click that one. And there you see there's the command Change Like Draw Tool. If you click that, the first thing the command wants is the draw tool name. And for that we're just going to right click and choose the Land Default tool. And then I'm gonna select all the things we want to change to look like this draw tool. Zoom in here. Right click, do it. Whoop. And there, something has not worked right. I think I accidentally unselected these ones up here. Let's try again. Change like draw tool, land default. There we go. And there's my coastline. Now I'm going to take care of this bit up here. See, I can now use my landmass tool and edit the existing bits and pieces. So I can just attach this the coastline, and there we've got it connected to the map border. There's my outline, my continent for Campaign Cartographer, which I can now go on to fill with mountains, forests, terrains, rivers, and so on. Before I'm not going to do that in this video because we've got a whole live mapping session on using the Mike Schley overland style, but I'm going to show you a few additional things that you might want to export into your Campaign Cartographer things from Fractal Terrains. But before I do that, let's take a look at the questions. Oh, okay. Yes, Christian has one of the bigger questions that many people would love to do. Take a continent from Campaign Cartographer, get that into fractal terrains, and randomize the rest of the world. That's not possible as such. What you can do, you can take a whole world and import the outline of that into, or even the height data of that into fractal terrains, but you can't randomize that or the rest of the map then. That's unfortunately not possible because fractal terrains builds on that random number of the whole fractal function, and that's not compatible with an import. There's some tips and tricks, things, very nice things you can do with an import, but that's beyond the topic of this video. Check out the forum, and there's some tutorials available and things that show you how to at least get an outline of a continent of a world into fractal terrains. Oh yes, and so Rick asks, why is the coastline on the drawing tool so huge? That's because the map is so large. It's a whole good chunk of world, and as we defined, it's 23,000 by 16,000 kilometers, and that throws off the preview of the drawing tools in the catalog window a little. That's why, because if we take a look at, say, we would draw a wide river, this is shown fairly wide, so it's visible on the map. But if I do a list on that one, it will show you that it's actually 60 or 69 miles wide, or kilometers wide, and 69 units, and this shows up as pretty wide in the preview in the catalog window. Okay, let's go back to fractal terrains and take a look at a few more of the options. So one thing we had here on the map is the grid, and perhaps you want that on the export as well. So we can, let's take a look at the grid here. Let's make this a bit tighter. You can or you can actually overlay multiple grids. You say you take another one with a different color and make that 10-degree spacing, and enable it. There we go. See, now you've got a second set of grid overlaying on here. And to export that, you will need to say, oh, let's add something else in fractal terrains first before I go on to the export settings again. Because another very nice feature of fractal terrains is the river settings. For that, we're going to switch back to the equirectangular view. And then we're going to choose Tools, Rivers, Find Rivers. Say we want a fine river resolution. I could do very fine, it's no problem, but it's going to take a little bit, and that's why I'm going to stick to something not so detailed, so you don't have to watch the computer doing its calculations for 2 minutes. Or see, it's going to calculating all the data for the rivers. Takes a moment, and here you can set the color. Say, I want a bit of a darker blue. And click OK. Say short rivers, long rivers, say a bit longer rivers. Okay. Final calculation. And if I take a view in here, fractal terrains calculates the river paths that rainflow would take along that height map. And these can be exported into Campaign Cartographer along with everything else. They might be a bit too straight looking in Campaign Cartographer, but they serve as very nice guidelines for any actual rivers you want to draw into your maps. So say you want to the grid on your map, so you're gonna do save cartographer file. Of course, you can do the full export. I will just add anything anyway, including the grid. But let's say you want to add just the grid to the to one of the other settings. Then you can edit that setting. Here you can define all the things you want to export it, all the altitude lines, and see the detail level. You saw the detail level was pretty fine I was using, but if you want to do a little more, you can adjust the number of nodes Campaign Cartographer puts in here. And see here you can set whether you want the grid in the map. I had it already in there actually. You can add things like contour bars. That's you saw that in the full export included. Layer switch buttons, that's the ones that allow you to switch between altitude and climate and so on. Put a title in here. Say, just for example, we put in my world. And this is the grid that Campaign Cartographer uses, and we wanted to add the second in here. That's not already in there, so we're gonna do that again. 10 degrees sections. Go. Now I should also make it visible. Okay, so my I could. What I probably should have done is duplicate the setting first and save it under a different name. But we're just going to keep this for the moment. Export this. Let's call it World 2. See whether we get a proper export immediately this time. And I will load up that map. World 2. Looking good. There's now my rectangular view that I had showing. Fractal terrains will always take the section of the map you're currently showing, just as an example. Let's zoom in again to our special continent here. And export. Save campaign cartographer file, setting, export. Let's do World 3 or continent. Click here. Where's my continent? There we go. And it's just gonna show that section of the continent. See the rivers are in here. And the world title we gave, you can edit this. Actually, the only problem is you have to hit the text here. That's can be a problem because too many contour lines are below that, which are not visible, and that if you do an edit, you hit that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna check out which layer the text is on. This was the wrong command. List. I've got the sheet grid and mapped. It's on map title and on the layer map border. So we're just gonna hide all the sheets but the title, and now we can edit the name and show all the sheets again. Down here on the left, you've got the defined contour lines. You can also change the text properties here. Say, see how much that this will be. This is too small. So let's say 20. Still too small. Prior. Let's make it 50. That's looking okay. Not all the contour lines are shown in separate colors in this version of the map, but I'm not going to go into how to exactly define the colors. That's also a setting of the exports to show, to exactly say. I will tell you to look at Sue's excellent world builder, one-day world builder, annual, and articles on our blog. She's got some very good stuff on there on how to do wonderful color schemes and control the color look of the exports from Fractal Terrains. Let's take another look at the questions we've got in the meantime. Jay asks whether you can make river paths erode without transferring to Wilbur. No, Fractal Terrains itself doesn't have a river erosion tool in here. This is again a reference to Sue's work in her articles and her annual about further editing and the height map that Fractal Terrains generates with the help of a second software called Wilbur. But you have to use that other software. You can't do that directly in Fractal Terrains 3. And Sue mentions that it might be nice to point out that to save settings in Fractal Terrains, you have to run the program as administrator. Just right-click your shortcut on the desktop and choose Run as administrator to make changes like editing the settings for the campaign cartographer exports. And Sue gives me the exact date for the World Builder annual. That's the one-day World Builder from November last year. I'm later going to put a link to that into the description of the video, so you can check that out. It's a very useful and powerful annual issue on making the most out of your Fractal Terrains maps and getting the best stuff into Campaign Cartographer 3+. Okay, and I think for that I've shown you how to get a proper continent from Fractal Terrains into Campaign Cartographer, how to get the settings you want, how to get rivers, and you can continue working on your map in Campaign Cartographer. And the nice thing is you can always go back into your Fractal Terrains map and do your take a different section of the same world. You're keeping the world settings around and export that into Campaign Cartographer, and that way slowly expand your range of maps of the same world. The two programs work together very nicely in that way. And that's it for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the session. It's going to go up on YouTube tomorrow or early next week, depending on how I get around to editing. And otherwise, have a nice rest of the week and see you again next time when we do a live mapping session here. Have a good time and enjoy your mapping at home.